surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
See, what they understand is, in order for us to have been oppressed, right? You can look this up. Hitler had a meeting with the black man, right? In the meeting with the black man, he said, I don't know how you all can face all the oppression you face. But what's going to be more phenomenal to them is, how did you overcome all that oppression? How were you able to survive? How were you able to navigate and not hate each other and kill each other and rip each other apart? It's going to be through unity. It's going to be through changing your mindset to stop only thinking about you and saying, how do I think about my nation?
Watching the time close, give me fruits of the spirit, no iPhone. I'ma shine when I do with my eyes closed. They can't see my crown, but it's mine though. No more chances. Get it right now.
A little warm, gotta pick a side. Who am I? True Jesus.
Today's title, right, is Unity and Camaraderie. The acronym for unity that was put together, you know, I had a couple options I let brothers pick. Unity stands for unlike N words, I think about you, right? Unlike N words, I think about you. So that's the difference we need to show in the earth today. So we're going to start with 2 Peter 3:1. So I like to start. We're going to talk about unity and camaraderie. Also, happy day assignment to y'all. You know, today's day assignment, so we'll touch that briefly. But let's go through that. 2 Peter 3:1 first.
There's a book of 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 1.
Bring it out.
This second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, in both which I stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance, that ye may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of the apostles of the Lord and Savior, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts.
We, in this body, we have our own lusts, our desires, right? So when you get around a scoffer's mindset is going to be what? Let's follow our lusts. Let's not follow what the scriptures say. Let's follow what the worldly desires say, whether that be money, cars, alcohol, partying. That's what the lusts of the world are, the lusts of the flesh, the pride of life. These are the things that people are going to push upon you as you're in this walk. And those scoffers that you're amongst, they at your job, right? They might be in the subway while you're riding to work. They might be on the trolley here in San Diego. They might be somebody that's your mama, your cousin, your uncle. There's going to be people around you that urge you to follow after your fleshly desires and not follow after what the Bible says. That's what Peter was going into. That's what he was dealing with. So he always had to remind the people, you got to stick with the laws of God. You got to hear the voice of the Lord. Through all the noise and confusion, you got to be unified with God. Go on.
And saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation.
So many of us, that's how we go through life. We're like, yo, things are just moving the way that they've been moving since the beginning. Your parents might feel that way. Your friends might feel that way. And some people will look at you like you're crazy because now you're serving God. Because in their mind, nothing is going to happen different than what's been happening. You're going to live, you're going to get your money, you're going to work, you're going to get your level of status, and then you're going to die. And your mind can't work that way, especially walking this truth. Your mind has to always be stayed upon the Lord, be unified with the plan of God, be listening to the voice of the Lord and say, okay, let me make sure I'm lining up with what the scriptures say versus what man say. Because if I line up with man say, I'm going to be put to death. If I'm focused on how man think about me, I'm going to get put to death. So it's very important that we remember that, right? So second, go to 1 Maccabees 13, read verse 1. Touch it real quick. We're going to dab into day assignment. Then we're going to move on.
There's the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 13 and verse 1.
Bring it out.
Now when Simon heard that Tryphon had gathered together a great host to invade the land of Judea.
Okay, so Tryphon wanted that smoke. All right? You know, I was reading this last night. I was like, man, Simon, side note, Simon is my favorite out of the Maccabees. You know, I know y'all like Judah Maccabees. You know, I was always a side character kind of dude, you know? You watching the show, everybody like the main character. You know, they like the person running around kicking everybody in the chest. You like, he's the one. But I was always looking for the dude that was in the cut supporting that main character. Like, man, that dude thinking. You know? So Simon, to me, that's what he reminds me of. He never was he was never put up in the front. Most times when brothers talk about the Maccabees, they don't mention Simon. But what the scriptures say about Simon, to me, is always heavy, right? So All praises, we got a day to celebrate, day of Simon. So let's read that again. So Tryphon wanted issues with Simon, right, and the people of Israel. Go ahead, read it.
Yes, sir. Now when Simon heard that Tryphon had gathered together a great host to invade the land of Judea and destroy it, and saw that the people was in great trembling and fear, he went up to Jerusalem and gathered the people together.
We talking about unity today, so this is fitting, right? Simon saw that there was an issue, so he gathered the people together. He said, we got to get together. Get on the same page. Go ahead.
And gave them exhortation, saying, Ye yourselves know what great things I and my brethren and my father's house have done for the laws and the sanctuary, the battles also and troubles which we have seen.
You know the issues that we've been through in order to make sure our nation stood upon top. You know the example we've set. You know our highs and our lows as a group, as a family, but also with y'all. You know what we've done in order to push this nation forward. Go ahead.
By reason whereof all my brethren are slain for Israel's sake, and I am left alone.
He said, all my brothers is dead at this point. I'm left alone. I'm left alone. I'm by myself. Now, watch how he responds.
Now therefore be it far from me that I should spare mine own life in any time of trouble, for I am no better than my brethren.
Man, Simon was next level, man. All his brothers, they was put to death. He could have said, I'm turning back. I'm going to stop doing this. Y'all crazy. I'm about to run for the hills. He said, nah, I'm no better than my brethren. I gotta go through exactly what they went through what my father went through what my brethren went through. I can't turn my back on my nation. So this is what we got to reflect on the day of Simon. He was unified with God, first and foremost, and he was unified with his people, right? Unlike niggas, I care about you. I think about you, right? That's what it is. Unlike niggas, I think about you, right? Try not to say the word. So Simon, he could have said, yo, I'm thinking about myself and moved on. But he said, I'm no greater than my brethren. I must go through what they went through. Go ahead.
Doubtless, I will avenge my nation and the sanctuary and our wives and our children, for all the heathen are gathered to destroy us of very malice. Now as soon as the people heard these words, their spirit revived. And they answered with a loud voice, saying, Thou shalt be our leader instead of Judas and Jonathan thy brother.
When the people understood his level of exhortation and commitment to the mission, they said, we're going to follow you. We see that determination in you. We see that spirit upon you of the Lord. So we're going to follow you. Go ahead.
Fight thou our battles, and whatsoever thou commandest us, that will we do.
They follow him because what? They saw the example his family had set, and they understood morally he was for them. So they said, whatever you command, we're going to do. We're going to follow you. Not because he came through and beat them down with an iron fist and exercised authority upon them. He came to them in a mode of humility and said, I'm not greater than my brethren. I'm going to die fighting with y'all. And they said, man, that's a man worth following. That's a brother who's unified with his people, and he wants camaraderie with his people. He cares. We got a united issue. We on the same page in terms of the issues we facing and what we got to deal with. And you standing before us, presenting yourself as a leader, we see you as that leader, and we're going to follow you. Go ahead.
So then he gathered together all the men of war and made haste to finish the walls of Jerusalem, and he fortified it round about.
Okay. Now jump down. Go to verse 20.
Verse 20.
We're just jumping through it.
And after this came Tryphon to invade the land and destroy it, going round about by the way that leadeth unto Ador. But Simon and his host marched against him in every place, wheresoever he went.
Simon had to squad with him. You know? Tryphon roll up. He said, I got a problem. Simon said, not today. Not today, demon. Right? Because now the people's minds was prepped to fight. They were unified. So wherever the devil went, the army of God was there to fight against it. Because Simon first started with, I can't let my people down. Then the people said, we with you. We ain't going to let you down. So now wherever Satan went, the army of God was there to fight against it. Go ahead.
Now they that were in the tower sent messengers unto Tryphon, to the end that he should hasten his coming unto them by the wilderness and send them victuals. Wherefore Tryphon made ready all his horsemen to come that night. But there fell a very great snow, by reason whereof he came not. So he departed and came into the country of Galilee. And when he had came near to Bascamah, he slew Jonathan, who was buried there. Afterward Tryphon returned and went into his own land. Then sent Simon and took the bones of Jonathan his brother, and buried them in Modin, the city of his fathers. And all Israel made great lamentation for him.
All right, jump down. We're going to get to the point. Now jump down to verse 47.
Verse 47. So Simon was appeased toward them and fought no more against them, but put them out of the city and cleansed the houses wherein the idols were, and so entered into it with songs and thanksgiving.
So he defeated them and he cleansed Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Yea, he put all uncleanness out of it and placed such men there as would keep the law.
So now he put strong men that would keep the law in place. Go ahead.
And made it stronger than it was before, and built therein a dwelling place for himself. They also of the tower in Jerusalem were kept so straight that they could neither come forth nor go into the country, nor buy nor sell. Wherefore they were in great distress for want of victuals, and a great number of them perished through famine. Then cried they to Simon, beseeching him to be at one with them, with which thing he granted them. And when he had put them out from thence, he cleansed the tower from pollutions, and entered into it the 23rd day of the second month, in the 171st year, which was thanksgiving and branches and palm trees, and with harps and cymbals, and with viols and hymns and songs, because there was destroyed a great enemy out of Israel. He ordained also that day should be kept every year with gladness.
So he ordained that day should be kept every year with gladness. Go ahead.
Moreover, the hill of the temple that was by the tower he made stronger than it was, and there he dwelt himself with his company.
Okay. So today is Day of Simon, right? It was ordained by Simon then that we would keep it. So we're keeping it. We're celebrating it, right? We're celebrating according to what our forefathers getting the victory. The Lord being with our forefathers and getting the victory and cleansing out the evil from Jerusalem. Now, go to chapter 14. We're going to just read verse 4.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 14 and verse 4. As for the land of Judea, that was quiet all the days of Simon.
So in the time of Simon, Simon cared for his people. So it talks about what he did, how he went on. In the time of Simon, he did what? He sought for what?
He sought the good of his nation in such wise as that evermore his authority and honor pleased them well.
Simon's mindset was to seek the good of his people. That's what we got to learn how to do again. Right? So in thinking about this day and reflecting where we at, we got to learn how to seek the good of our people, not the good of ourselves. Right? We can't be rolling like Negroes and only thinking about ourselves. We got to think about the good of our nation and our actions, right? And how we're moving and what flaws we have and how we overcome them. That's what drove Simon. He said, I can't just quit on y'all because just like my brothers, I got to go through it for the benefit of y'all too. And in his time, he seeked the good of his nation. He sought the good of his nation. Go ahead.
As that evermore his authority and honor pleased them well. And as he was honorable in all his acts, so in this, that he took Joppa for a haven, and made an entrance to the isles of the sea, and enlarged the bounds of his nation, and recovered the country, and gathered together a great number of captives, and had the dominion of Gazara, and Bethshur, and the tower, out of the which he took all uncleanness, neither was there any that resisted him. Then did they till their ground in peace.
In that time, people were able to farm in peace. Go ahead.
And the earth gave her increase, and the trees of the field their fruit. The ancient men sat all in the streets, communing together of good things. And the young men put on glorious and warlike apparel. He provided victuals for the cities, and set in them all manner of munition, so that his honorable name was renowned unto the end of the world.
So Simon had a name, not because he sought his own good, but because he took care of his people. That's where his name came from. His name came from him seeking the good of his people. And then as people saw it, his authority pleased them well. And then he had a name to the end of the earth. We got to get back to this mindset. Not trying to seek a name because you want to be the man for yourself, but how do you impact your people? How do you create glory and greatness in your people? Now jump down to verse 14 for time's sake.
Verse 14. Moreover, he strengthened all those of his people that were brought low.
That's where we at today. Our people have been brought low. We're going to get into that. As a people, we've been brought low. And our mind as leaders coming up, as individuals repenting, learning that we the Israelites and coming together as a nation in unity, right? Learning how to think about you, somebody else outside of you, right? When we learning that, we got to seek the good of our people. We got to think about all of those who were brought low. Go on.
The law he searched out, and every contemptor of the law and wicked person he took away.
Okay, now let's get into the article real quick. Shalom. Hey, bruh. Hey, sis. You've been watching for a whole 15 minutes. You still ain't subscribed yet? Go ahead and hit that button down at the bottom of the page. All right, I'm going to shut my black lips. You get back to the class. Most High in Christ bless. Let's look at this. I sent them in order too. So let's pull the first one up. Right? Now, I was looking into this. Something sparked me, made me go, let me read about the Kerner Commission. If y'all know about the Kerner Commission, essentially in the 60s, there was a ton of riots going on. So there was a commission or a group of men put together, Edomites, in order to understand why were the riots taking place? Why were the riots taking place? We live in this time now where maybe no one is rioting per se as much, maybe a couple years ago for George Floyd, but it's not on the same level as it was in the 60s, right? People are not, it's not overt as it was. But I always look back at this and say, there's a reason why it's not as overt, because they study why we riot and why we were frustrated and calmed it down to a sense. Even though the sin still exists, we'll get into that. The people as a whole don't have that same riled up spirit. Judah has crouched down like a lion, right? Ready to pounce, but not pouncing. And you men that are from the tribe of Judah and learning this information, your job is to wake Judah back up so they can be like this again. So let's read this real quick.
The 1968 Kerner Commission report still echoes across America. The Kerner Commission left scant doubt that it regarded white racism as the tinder igniting the 1960s riots.
You could just read from a young African-American.
Yes, sir. A young African-American is killed by a white police officer in full view of others. Angry people take to the streets. Unrest that goes on night after night, with scores injured and hundreds arrested. Sound familiar? But this was back in July 1964 in the Harlem and Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhoods of New York.
Bedford-Stuyvesant. The New Yorker in me is like, nah, you got to say that right.
The Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhoods of New York. And far worse lay ahead. More racial rioting erupted the following summer in Los Angeles' Watts section. In 1966, there was yet more, this time in Cleveland. Then came the disastrous summer of 1967. Chaos enveloped more than 160 American cities and towns. The most ruinous riots leading to 43 deaths in Detroit and 26 in Newark. With the nation reeling that summer, President Lyndon B. Johnson created a task force to explore the roots of the unrest and possible remedies.
So when the president gets together and he's trying to figure out the remedies, he's not really trying to solve the problem for the people. What he's trying to do is figure out why are they upset to this level where they're rioting. So he gets Governor Otto Kerner Jr. of Illinois. Come on, keep reading. Watch what happens.
The National Advisory Commission of Civil Disorders, led by Governor Otto Kerner Jr. of Illinois, released a report in February 1968, known as the Kerner Commission. Its findings still echo across the land, racked once again by turmoil turning largely on uneasy relations between black communities and police departments. The report offered a conclusion that was deliberately worded to be head-turning. Our nation is moving toward two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. The report left scant doubt that it regarded white racism as the tinder igniting those 1960s fires. It was hardly what President Johnson had hoped to hear. He wanted to praise for a stewardship of racial matters that included two towering pieces of legislation: the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Instead, his own panel painted a bleak picture of race in America. He essentially chose to stash the Kerner report away.
Wait a minute. He did what with it?
He essentially chose to stash the Kerner report away and ignore it.
Damn. The white man is the devil. He said, hey, I know why y'all upset. I understand it. I did research on it, but let me put this in my back pocket. Don't know who I care about this. This ain't going to overshadow my political gain. This is what I'm worried about. I'm worried about how I gain. So when you look at this country, a lot of y'all look at America and y'all say, give me that Lamentations 4 verse 17. A lot of y'all look at America and y'all say, America got my back. I'm unified with America. America, right? A lot of y'all. You know, Clayton Bigsby spirits. You got to watch Dave Chappelle if you don't know who that is. Go ahead. Lamentations 4:17.
This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 17.
Bring it out.
As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help.
Okay, read it again.
Yes, sir.
I think the words is escaping you.
Yes, sir.
Read it again.
Lamentations chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
See, that's how we've looked at this country. You look at this country as a nation that could help us, as if there was a plan to benefit you. But when you were writing, there was research done in this country, in America specifically, right? I want to make that clear because we got people watching from all over. But when you're looking at this, you say, okay, America's aware, fully aware, why there was issues in this country, but they have no intent on fixing it. They stashed away the report years ago. They said, we're just going to keep this in our back pocket. We're not going to act on it right now. We're not actually going to fix anything, but we understand exactly why you riot. We understand that this country is headed to a point where there's going to be a division between Esau and between the nation of Israel. We know that's coming. We knew that in the 60s. We're not surprised by it. So, and it's clear what newspapers know, but many people probably never heard of the Kerner report. You never done no research on the Kerner Commission. So I'm bringing this up to say what? When you think about unity in this country, the country has never thought about unity including you. I want to make this clear too. Give me 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 3. Because I know how Negroes are, man. They might hear this and be like, man, we got to go riot. We got to get up and we got to get picket signs and walk down the street and scream. It's not the point. The point is that they're aware of why you riot, and they're aware of the oppression that is happening to you in this country. They're very much so aware. Go ahead.
There's the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 3.
Bring it out.
For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh.
So we're walking in the flesh, but our war is not after the flesh. Go ahead.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.
Our weapon is this Bible, the laws of God. Teaching this Bible and unifying in it is what is going to bring about the redemption of the nation of Israel. It's going to bring back that unity and camaraderie, right? Camaraderie at the end of the day goes back to, give me that definition real quick, as a matter of fact. Let me pull it up. Let me not define it. Let Esau define it. Go ahead.
This is the definition of camaraderie. A spirit of trust and goodwill among people, closely associated in an activity or endeavor.
Okay. What are the synonyms?
Synonyms: brotherhood, bonhomie, conviviality.
Okay, all right, you tried. You know what I mean? All right, you tried. I don't know. That one I had to click. Conviviality? That's what I think. But we'll find out later. Because ain't nobody about to be embarrassed today. Anyway, so the point I'm making, right? Man, look, this ain't our first language. I said, look, Esau, explain it. The point, though, is it says a spirit of trust and goodwill among people closely associated in activity or endeavor. An endeavor. In the 60s, right? In the 60s, there was a determined effort, right? Serious determined effort to overcome the oppression that they were facing. That built the camaraderie amongst the people. Today, in these last days, as you finding out, we're oppressed according to Deuteronomy 28. Many of y'all learning that. So through the oppression, our activity of trying to escape it, that should be creating unity. It should be creating a mindset that say, unlike niggas, I think about you. Now let me consider the man next to me, the sister next to me, right? The children. What can we do to make it better in our community? Because clearly Esau don't care about you. Watch this. Let's get the next article. Clearly Esau don't give a damn.
Brookings, 50 years after the Kerner Commission report, the nation is still grappling with many of the same issues.
That's interesting. Well, of course they are, because they took the report and put it in their back pocket. Of course they're dealing with the same thing. They had no intention on fixing it. Watch, go ahead.
After intense mid to the late 1960s urban rioting, President Lyndon B. Johnson commissioned the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders, generally known as the Kerner Commission, to study the causes of the riots and to propose solutions.
So they studied the cause of the riots. Go ahead.
Their report, issued in March 1968, argued that the riots were caused in large part by poor neighborhood conditions and limited labor market options facing black Americans as a consequence of racism and rampant discrimination in housing and labor markets. Kerner Report, 1968. These factors underlay the development and maintenance of the northern black ghettos, where residents endured extreme segregation, limited housing choices, concentrated poverty, and poor schools. Although the report's authors believed in full integration as the long-term solution, they argued the more immediate relief was possible through large-scale targeted government investment in housing, education, and employment programs, and more robust social insurance programs.
So this is the white man saying, if we want to stop them from rioting, let's make sure we pour more money into their community. Lyndon B. Johnson said, no, y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. I'm putting that in my back pocket. Y'all crazy. You think I'm about to spend my money on them? I'm about to help them? So some of these things that people are pushing over years and years and years, trying to put into place, in the 60s they knew this would stop the rioting if we did this. So what they do with our people, right, that we're going to get to it. Keep reading. I don't want to jump the gun. Go ahead.
Without immediate action, however, they predicted the rioting would continue. Despite these warnings, the recommendations were not adopted by President Johnson. Notwithstanding the rioting in the aftermath of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination that year. However, the rioting largely stopped and the exigency of the period receded.
Okay, man, I know I'm going hard on you today. Goodness gracious. Give me Proverbs 3:31 real quick. We come back to the article. Sheesh, that brother pronounced words he ain't never seen today. Conviviality, huh? Exigency. He's like, what? I don't know. I don't know what that word say. Go ahead.
There's a book of Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
So the scriptures say that envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. What we've done as a people is we've chosen America over our God. We've chosen the places of our captivity over our God. And these people have never chosen us, right? What should be happening, give me Ecclesiastes 7:7. What should be happening here, right? Exigency is going into urgency. So we're on the same page, all right? Go ahead.
There's a book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad.
Okay, so the issue is the urgency has been taken out of us because what? Now, in the place that we're in, we're getting oppressed daily. But what Esau understands is the next part of this verse. I'm oppressing you. I understand that the oppression is what's causing you to want to flee from this place. So in order to stop you from feeling like you're being oppressed, what I do is the next part of this verse. Read the next part.
And a gift destroyeth the heart.
I'm going to give you something nice. Huh? I know you think I hate you, but you know what I got for you during COVID? Nice little stimulus check. That's what I got for you. I know you think I hate you, but you know what's coming up? Christmas. Go ahead and take this holiday bonus.
The hell is this?
And some of you, through these things, you forget oppression. Just like here. They knew what created urgency in you. They knew that the oppression created a need for you to come together and created that common bond amongst the people. And what it will unite you to is a black race, right, versus a white race in the context of these articles. But what it was really saying is the Israelites will rise up against the people that are oppressing them. Not carnally, but in a way where they would unite in the spirit of the Lord. They knew that would come from the 60s and even before the 60s. Read this next part.
Since the report's publication, the country has certainly seen much progress. Many black Americans enjoy relatively high school and economic status. Overt racism and efforts to exclude or constrain where they live, work, or attend school have greatly diminished. Yet, the report outlined concerns that are still relevant. Racial segregation remains the defining feature of many U.S. cities. Blacks face higher unemployment and lower wages. Huge disparities in wealth persist at levels near those described by the Kerner and his colleagues 5 decades ago.
So the summary of this is Esau don't give a damn about you. Huh? That's what you got to learn. Esau don't care about you because they know what will fix your situation, but they have no intent on proving it. And ultimately, this is ordained by God. That's what you learn when you come here. You start to learn that. So now give me the next one.
Oh, you. Shalom, Israel. Most High in Christ bless. Hebrews chapter 10 and 25 said, not forsaking the assembly of ourselves as a manner of some is, but exhorting one another. And so much more as we see the day approaching. Come on down to La Mesa, California, 7254 University Avenue, and come get some of this good news you can use. Shalom.
Chapter 15, verse 24.
I was looking up some stuff. I was like, okay, let's look at this. So now this article was interesting to me because they did some research on how much black identity matters. So in the 60s, there was a black power movement. Same time this Kerner Commission is going on, through the oppression, through the destruction of our community, we needed to get together, and we said we got to have a movement about our power, about our nation, about being on one accord with each other. We can't be like niggas no more. We got to think about each other. We got to have some camaraderie in terms of getting out of the situation. That was the mindset of Judah in this country. And that impacted everybody. Israel everywhere started looking and saying, dang, look what they doing. You had different movements. AIM came up, and the Brown Berets, and so on and so forth. The Panthers, right? You had different movements come up out of this time because there was a need for unity because of the oppression that existed. Because there were people aware of the oppression. They made it clear to everyone that there was oppression, and when people realized they were oppressed, they came up out of their sleep. They said, oh, wait a minute, we are oppressed. So now, watch what this article says. Go ahead.
Race is central to identity for Black Americans and affects how they connect with each other.
So having a shared race is central to the identity of Black Americans, and it also affects how they connect to each other. Interesting. Go ahead.
No matter where they are from, who they are, their economic circumstances, or educational backgrounds, significant majorities of Black Americans say being Black is extremely or very important to how they think about themselves, with about 3/4 overall saying so.
Go ahead.
Most Black adults saying being Black is very important to see how they see themselves. Percent of Black adults who say being Black is how they think about themselves. 3%, a little important. 5%, not important, not at all important. 14%, somewhat important. 22%, very important. 54%, extremely important. Extremely very important, 76%.
So just so we understand, the majority of our people in this research that they did acknowledged that having a central identity was necessary. Having a shared identity was necessary. Right now, they attribute that identity to being Black. They attribute it to being Black. But what we're to do is when we go and we teach the people, we're going to show them you ain't Black at all. You an Israelite.
Bring it out.
And when you understand that, the concept of having a shared identity, that's already in our people. They know in order for us to live and to be together and for things to work out, we have to have a shared identity. The problem is what they're calling themselves right now. Go on.
A significant share of Black Americans also say that when something happens to Black people in their local communities, across the nation or around the globe, it affects what happens in their own lives, highlighting a sense of connectedness. Black Americans say this even as they have diverse experiences and come from an array of backgrounds. Even so, Black adults who say being Black is important to their sense of self are more likely than other Black adults to feel connected to other groups of Black people. They are also more likely to feel that what happens to Black people inside and outside the United States affects what happens in their own lives.
So the Black people, right, or the Israelites that think about a shared identity are more likely to care about somebody other than themselves. Interesting. Unlike niggas, I think about you. The ones that got a shared identity, they have a likelihood, right? I use that word, a likelihood to think about someone or something outside of themselves, to look at the bigger picture. Go ahead.
These findings emerge from an extensive new survey of Black U.S. adults conducted by Pew Research Center. A majority of non-Hispanic black Americans, 78%, say being black is very or extremely important to how they think about themselves. This racial group is the largest among black adults, accounting for 87% of the adult population, according to 2019 Census Bureau estimates. But among other black Americans, roughly 6 in 10 multiracial, 57%, and Hispanic, 58%, black adults say this.
So the majority of our people identify with the fact that if we have a shared identity, it has an impact on our lives. It's necessary to have a shared identity. Go ahead.
Black Americans also differ in key ways in their views about the importance of being black to personal identity. While a majority of all age groups of black people say being black shapes how they think about themselves, younger black Americans are less likely to say this. Black adults ages 50 and older are more likely than black adults ages 18 to 29 to say that being black is very or extremely important to how they think of themselves. Specifically,
Damn. The younger generation is falling off the horse. That's why we got to get out here and work, man. Sheesh. Go ahead.
Specifically, 76% of black adults ages 30 to 49, 80% of those 50 to 64, and 83% of those 65 and older hold this view, while only 63% of those under 30 do.
So what it's showing you is the people of a certain age and above that came up in a certain time understand unity is important. A shared identity is important. And now what they've done is they've created an environment where through the gifts they've given our people, they start to say, well, I don't really care about being black as much. What's more important to me is that America thrives. What's more important to me is that I get my own. I'm not really thinking about my identity and what matters in terms of my identity and who I need to be connected with and what's going on nationwide. I'm in my bubble. I'm confused and I'm asleep. I'm on TikTok. Now, give me Romans chapter 11, verse 1. You can drop the article. There's more. Y'all can read this on your own. Y'all can read this on your own. Romans 11 and verse 1.
There's the book of Romans chapter 11 and verse 1. I say then, have God cast away his people? God forbid. For I also am an Israelite, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin.
Read.
God have not cast away his people, which he foreknew.
So God has never done away with his people completely. Never did away with them. He punished them. He put us through oppression. But through that oppression, we were supposed to unite back to God. That's what's supposed to happen. But many of our people, they're going off the deep end. They've lost that unity. In the 60s, it existed because the oppression was in your face. But when Kerner got that report, Lyndon B. Johnson said, let me put this in my back pocket. We're going to figure out how to calm them down without causing no problems. And the Lord was always trying to get us to remember, I never cast y'all away. But y'all threw me away. Y'all disconnected from me. Leviticus 18 and 2, watch this. Coming out of Egypt, just like we need to come out of Egypt today, spiritual Egypt or America, and the influences that they had worldwide, this is what he said, Leviticus 18 and 2.
This is the book of Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 2.
Bring it out.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt.
After the doings of the place you dwelt in, that I'm freeing you from. Go ahead.
Shall ye not do.
That should not be in the forefront of your mind to follow, to be the example of what you should be, to be the example of how unity looks. They've given our people an identity here of being black, and we're going to get into that a little bit more in another article. They've given us an identity of rap music, hip-hop culture. In order to be down, you got to shoot the ball better, shoot a gun better, spit lyrics better, dress flyer. These are the things that we attribute to our culture. We're following the land of Egypt still, here in America and nationwide, because our people have grown up with these same ideas and customs, and the Lord's trying to pull us up out of that and reunite us back to him, just like he was here. Go ahead.
And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do, neither shall ye walk in their ordinances.
Read.
Ye shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances, to walk therein. I am the Lord.
In order to keep his judgments, you had to keep them in the forefront of your mind. You had to know these are the things that I need to be doing, and this is important. This is necessary in order for you to reunite with me. Give me Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10. Then we'll get to the next article.
This is the book of Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people.
Here in America and worldwide, many of you have been told you from this tribe, or you Jamaican, or you Haitian, or you Puerto Rican, you're a black American. You are looking for identity, and they gave you a false identity because what they understood is you needed an identity. You needed something to latch onto. But if we gave you something that was false, you would latch onto that and the ideas that came with it. You would move like a Gentile. Because now I can give you your culture. I can tell you what your heritage is. I can tell you, you like ham. Huh? Ham is your culture. And this white image of Jesus is your culture. But the Lord said, no, in these last days, I'm going to reunite you. I'm going to teach you to have camaraderie when it comes to me. I'm going to teach you to think about each other as it relates to me. That's what you haven't learned. Go ahead.
And the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people. There shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land. For great shall be the day of Jezreel.
So the Lord is coming back to redeem us. But prior to that, he said what? We got to gather together. We have to unify. We got to think about each other. And being a black American isn't anything to unify in. Being a Jamaican, a Haitian, a Puerto Rican, a Dominican, none of those things are things to unify in. What we need to unify in is being the Israelites. That's what we learned in the place where we were told, you're not an Israelite, you're going to learn your nationality. And you're going to learn how much identity truly does matter. Let's look at this now. Watch. So many of our brothers and sisters that's caught up in the world, they got an identity of being black American. So in order to figure out what a black American does, they got to study it. They send them to school and they go to this. Watch. Go ahead.
Is new AP African American Studies course too woke? We attended class to find out.
So in schools, they have an AP, right, which is basically like for college credit, African American Studies course. So scroll down. We'll read a little bit, and then we'll move on.
Lorton, Virginia. Sean Miller quiets the stereo blasting Al Green's Let's Stay Together and begins his lessons for the day, a journey through centuries with improvisational stops along the way.
Sheesh, bruh. Sheesh. Go ahead.
He kicks off with a discussion on Black joy. Today's focus, Olympic gymnast and fellow Virginian Gabby Douglas. Then his roughly 24 students move on to another topic, Black History Month. Has the yearly event outlived its relevance? Miller asks after playing a video clip about the month's origins. None, some say. A team proposes legislation to mandate its observance. Next, the discussion veers to distinctions between slave and enslaved person. One emphasizes a person's status, the other their humanity. Then students analyze sketches of captives from the 1839 Amnistad Rebellion. By the time class wraps up, Miller has drifted through the good and bad reference in the Al Green anthem, stringing together topics like a chord progression. Finding the triumph amid all the challenges and tragedies requires a little bit of creativity, he explains later. Welcome to Advanced Placement African American Studies. The course still in pilot mode has drawn praise from students nationwide, but sparked restrictions in Florida and Arkansas amid concerns from conservatives that the curriculum is leftist propaganda and makes white children feel bad about themselves.
Okay, now what really is the issue is the black children are going to be unified in a shared identity. They're no longer going to be Negroes that you can put them in a system, and when we talk about Greek history and we show all white images, they confused. They're like, hold on, wait, what that got to do with me? Now, wait, give me Deuteronomy 28. We could drop the article. Now when they start to learn, they're going to say, hold on, wait. They're going to look across the room. They're going to go, yo, Leroy, bro, we went on slave ships. And then Jimmy's going to be in the corner like, that ain't got nothing to do. I was whipping them. Now, Jimmy feeling bad about himself really means Jimmy is not going to be able to keep the charade up. Jimmy ain't going to no longer be able to keep the charade up. And that's what we breaking down. This is the war we at. When we understand we got shared trauma and issues and we can connect that to our identity, then the people will unify. Then the people will unify because they'll look at it and say, okay, well, if this is why this happened, then we got to come out of this. Give me Deuteronomy 28, start at verse 46.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign.
They is referring to the curses written about in Deuteronomy 28. Go ahead.
And for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
Keep going.
Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things.
We haven't learned to serve God for the abundance of all things. We haven't. We had a hatred towards God when all he wanted to ever do was unify with us, to make sure that we understood we were the Israelites. We're coming out of these different lands of oppression over and over again, and I want you to just follow me, to unite with me. And this last days is our chance to get it right. This is our chance to stop only considering ourselves and actually consider the brothers and sisters around us and the Lord that's been trying to save us from generation to generation. Go ahead.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things.
Those enemies that oppress us in hunger and thirst, right? And clothing, right? And nakedness. And want of all things, our education, the gifts that they've given us. We serve them for everything. So we adopted their religions. We adopted their mindset. We adopted the identity that they gave us. Through slavery, colonialism, right? The loss of identity and oppression that's written about in Deuteronomy 28. Trying to overcome that is what's going to build a unity in us. What's going to build a camaraderie. Because now, when you look at this, you say, we have a shared history. We got a united history. There's no division amongst us in terms of, okay, we went into slavery on slave ships. All of us. That happened to all of us. There's no division amongst us in terms of being oppressed at your job. There's no division amongst us in needing to serve your enemy for food, water, clothing, and shelter. So now there's an issue. Because they've understood since the 60s, when you unify, you're going to disconnect from us. You're no longer going to trust our system. You're no longer going to unite with the things that we're trying to feed you. You no longer will say, I'm a black American. See, what it is we understand that we need shared identity. But the people are waiting on us to go and show them the example of what that looks like to unite as being an Israelite. What those customs look like, what that status looks like, how we should carry ourselves as a nation. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 5.
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and in your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
See, what they understand is, in order for us to have been oppressed, right? You can look this up. Hitler had a meeting with the black man, right? And the meeting with the black man, he said, I don't know how you all can face all the oppression you face. But what's going to be more phenomenal to them is, how did you overcome all that oppression? How were you able to survive? How were you able to navigate and not hate each other and kill each other and rip each other apart? It's going to be through unity. It's going to be through changing your mindset to stop only thinking about you and saying, how do I think about my nation? That's what the other nations are going to look at and say, man, we hate each other, honestly. We just work together because it's for our benefit. But you really care about each other, whether in poverty, whether one of you is rich, whether you all got it all or one of you don't got it, you take care of each other. Surely this is a wise and understanding people because they hold each other up. They don't fight amongst each other. They apply the laws of God and they create unity amongst themselves. That was our heritage. That's what the Lord established. He taught us how to judge one another. He taught us how to deal with one another. You can't find it amongst the right now, two heathen arguing at your job, they both whispering in your ear and you in the middle of it like, I don't care. Ronnie coming to you, man, you know Jamal, man. Huh? Get him, not Jamal, I need to use a different name. You know Bill. Bill's getting on my nerves. I don't know what's going on with Bill. And you're like, man, okay, all right, man. All right, I'm about to go down the hallway. Then you see Bill be like, that dang Richard. You know? And you sitting there going, man, what the heck? If they had Matthew 18, they would apply it. But they don't got that. They don't have Leviticus 19:17. What they got is hatred. What they got is we only work together because this benefits us financially. This benefits our children financially. But us, we got something bigger to look forward to, something better. And that's what we're regaining. We're regaining that unity under God. Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6.
There's a book, Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6.
I'm going to drop all of this. Hosea 4 and 6. Go ahead.
My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
Okay, we're destroyed because we lack the knowledge necessary to unite us. We lack it. So rather than looking at each other under this shared identity, we look at each other as Negroes. We look at each other as spics. We don't see the need for unity in order to get out the problems. We're looking at everything as individuals. And most of all, worst of all, we're using our own thoughts instead of the laws of God, uniting with God to get out of the problems we're in. If God created the issue, God can solve the issue. So we lack the knowledge of that. Go ahead.
Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me.
Give me Jeremiah chapter 9 and verse 2. Just going to skip through this. So when we lack that knowledge, this is the way we turn towards each other. Jeremiah 9 and verse 2.
This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 9 and verse 2.
Read it out.
Oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people.
You see what Jeremiah said? He said, because of how we are as a people, I wish there was a lodging place that I could go to of traveling men, that I could leave my people. Somewhere I could run away from them. Because these Negroes ain't thinking about me. They don't have no idea about how to unify and become one nation. They're worried about themselves. This is how we become without the laws of God. Go ahead.
And go from them, for they be all adulterers, an assembly of treacherous men, and they bend their tongues like their bow for lies.
They'll lie at the drop of a dime. It don't matter. It don't matter. They will hustle you no matter what. Some of y'all mad right now. Like, man, that brother hustled the hell out of me. Goodness gracious. He was cold with it too, because they bend their tongue to lies. This is what we've learned in America and these other nations that we've come from. We learn how to hustle each other, lie to each other, not look out for each other's benefit. Go ahead.
But they are not valiant for the truth upon the earth, for they proceed from evil to evil, and they know not me, saith the Lord. Take ye heed every one of his neighbor.
This is what we've turned to now. Now we watching each other. Instead of watching the enemy, we are watching each other. We have hatred for each other because we understand the most dangerous thing to me is a Negro. We said the white man out the window now. Forget the 60s where we had to watch the white man. Now we got to watch each other. Now we don't trust each other. And we take that mentality and we come in the truth. We bring that in the truth. And when your brother say, I got your back, I'm trying to help you, I'm trying to unite with you, you say, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust you. You are a Negro. You are black. I don't know if you really got my best interest at heart. Go ahead.
And trust ye not in any brother, for every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor will walk with slanders, and they will deceive every one his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity.
So we look at each other and we have this sinful light on each other. That dude ain't right. There ain't no good in that dude. I know he's saying he's trying to help me, but I don't really trust him. We lean towards hating one another. That's what we learn here. We lean towards looking at each other as no good Negroes. But we got to come out of that. We got to come out of the mindset, right? I'm bleeping myself. We got to come out of that mindset. We got to be able to look at each other and say, yo, there is good in that brother. I know he got flaws and he got issues. I know that sister got flaws and she got issues. But in order to unite and come back to God, we got to be able to, okay, I see the issue, but there's a way to fix it, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to share the effort. I'm going to share the work with you of correcting your spirit. We ain't learned that in America. We ain't learned that. The people understand we need a shared identity, but what they haven't learned being black is that you got to take care of each other. That's what they got to learn being an Israelite. Give me Matthew chapter 12 and verse 30. Just skip it.
This is the book of Matthew chapter 12 and verse 30. He that is not with me is against me.
You see what the Lord say? He that's not with me is against me. He that don't want to do these laws and keep these laws and get better, he's against me. But you got brothers and sisters that what? They really want to get right, but they need help. They need that unity. They need that camaraderie to get over the hump, to get better. Go ahead.
And he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad.
When you don't have the mindset of unifying the people, you're scattering your people. You're destroying them. So they might be among you, but you still got that black mentality. You still got that mentality where I ain't thinking about you. Your concerns and your issues do not matter to me. They don't matter over my own issues and my own problems. I don't think about you on a daily basis or my nation or how I can build us up. I think about how I'm going to get this money, take care of my house, take care of my job, take care of my car, because it's about me, 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 me. Give me Isaiah 61 real quick. Read verse 1.
This is the book of Isaiah chapter 61 and verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted.
We got to look at our people and understand they brokenhearted. They don't know how to move right. You might be looking at him and say, he understands what he should be doing. He did that on purpose. Now his mind is broken, just like your mind is broken. So there were men sent out into the earth, and every time to bind up the brokenhearted, just like there is today. To fix those people who don't understand unity, who are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And all they understand is that their own brother is their enemy. Go ahead.
To proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound.
Read.
To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn.
Some of y'all ain't been around people who really in mourning for days, right? Who crying on the floor where you just like, I can't even tell them nothing. You just got to stand there, they crying so hard. That's what our people are going through. They in mourning. Every attempt they make at fixing their problems, there's no remedy or no solution. So in their mind, they stop trusting each other. There is no unity. There is no camaraderie. But coming back, we got to fix those people who mind is like that. That's what they come in here to do. Yeah, they're going to have problems and issues. They're going to say crazy stuff when they walk through the door. But they're coming in here to be healed, to remove that mourning. Go ahead.
To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning.
We got to give them the oil of joy through the scriptures. Go on.
The garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness.
Because right now they got a spirit of heaviness walking through that door. Every day you see your brother, your sister, you congregate with them. When they come into the sanctuary, the place of peace, they're coming in and they trying to remove that garment of heaviness. That spirit of heaviness is upon them. So you trying to clothe them with joy when they get around you. That's the unity the Lord wants us to come to. Go on.
That they might be called trees of righteousness, planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified.
Read.
And they shall build the old wastes. They shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations.
All right, Amos chapter 3 and verse 3. So that's what we're here to do. We're here not to be like the Negroes. Because unlike Negroes, I think about you. I consider you. I consider camaraderie on a daily basis. I say, the reason you come in here is because we lacked a shared identity. We was oppressed. We didn't know who our nation was. And now that I'm here and I'm trying to build a nation of people, I got your back and I pray you got my back. That's what we're here for. Not to think about yourself. You could have just stayed in the world with that nonsense. Read that.
Amos chapter 3 and verse 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed?
You see what the Bible says? Can two walk together except they be agreed? The Lord asked that question after saying this. Read verse 1.
Verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel.
The Lord was talking to the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt.
When he brought that family up from the land of Egypt, he wanted them to leave off from doing what they were doing in Egypt, thinking how they were thinking in Egypt, moving how they were moving in Egypt, being a Negro, and come back to being an Israelite. That's what he wanted them to leave. So he's saying, I brought you up from Egypt. Go ahead.
Saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth.
I dealt with you. I built you up. I taught you everything that you needed to know. I only knew you. Go on.
Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities.
Now I'm going to punish you because you refuse to unite under me. So now when he asks in verse 3, go ahead.
Can two walk together except they be agreed?
So how are we going to walk with God if we're not agreed? If we don't line up to what he's been asking us to do for generation after generation after generation. If we don't have that mind of unity and camaraderie. If we don't have that mind to think about the brother or the sister next to us, that's been our problem. God got that mind to think about us. The Lord got that mind to think about us. They're one, Christ and the Father. But we don't got that mind to be one with each other. We got a mind to be individuals, to be concerned with our own well-being, to be concerned about what benefits us. But the Lord is pulling us out of that in these last days. That's what he's trying to get us to leave behind. Y'all only going to make it if y'all care about each other. Y'all only going to make it if there's a level of unity and camaraderie amongst you that's above what you learn in this earth. Give me Exodus chapter 35, verse 30. Let's look at some examples. Let's see what happened with Moses. Because some of you think you're the super Negro, right? You're like, man, I'm deep. I got all the thoughts and all the power. I know everything. I don't need counsel. I don't need nobody to help me because I'm deep. I can just think about it and it's going to happen. Read that.
This is the book of Exodus chapter 35 and verse 30.
Bring it out.
And Moses said unto the children of Israel, see, the Lord hath called by name Bezaleel the son of Uri, the son of Ur, of the tribe of Judah. And he hath filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom and understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship.
So many of you, this will piss you off. You be like, Lord, what? I'm the leader. I'm in charge, Lord. How you going to put the Spirit in somebody else? But what you seeing here is, although Moses was the leader, there was men around him to help him get the job done. In order to do the work of building the temple, there was men around him to get the job done. He didn't have everything in him. The Lord said, I put that Spirit in other men around you. So in order for you to accomplish what I'm asking you to do, you need these other men. And it's just like that in these last days. You can't get done what you want to get done without these other men. You don't got the wisdom to do it. Go ahead.
And to devise curious works to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in the cutting of stones to set them, and in the carving of wood to make any manner of cunning work. And he had put in his heart that he may teach both he and Aholiab, the son of Ashmach, of the tribe of Dan.
Shout out to the tribe of Dan, I guess. Damn. Dan had some wisdom at one point. Go ahead.
Them have he filled with wisdom of heart to work all manner of work of the engraver and of the cunning workman and of the embroiderer, in blue and in purple, in scarlet and in fine linen, and of the weaver, even of them that do any work, and of those that devise cunning work.
Okay, give me Exodus 20 and verse 22 now. So the Lord set up Aholiab and Bezaleel. And he set them up because he gave them the wisdom, but Moses was the leader. So even as a leader, Moses had to say, these other men, they have wisdom that I lack. And if I want to get this done, I need these other men. Go ahead.
This is the book of Exodus chapter 38 and verse 22.
Uh-huh.
And Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord commanded Moses.
See, he did all that the Lord commanded Moses because he had the wisdom to do so. The Lord put the Spirit on another man to get the work done that he commanded another man to get done. Now imagine if Moses said, I'm never going to go to him. I'm never going to ask him for help. I'm smarter than him. I know what to do. Go ahead.
Verse 23, and with him was Aholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and a cunning workman, and an embroiderer in blue and in purple, and in scarlet and in fine linen.
Okay, Exodus 17 and verse 8. So the point that you got to be able to see is that it took unity in order to accomplish the task. In order to get up out of here, it's going to take unity. It's always took unity. Exodus 17 and verse 8.
This book of Exodus chapter 17 and verse 8.
Bring it out.
Then came Amalek and fought with Israel and Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose us out men and go out. Fight with Amalek tomorrow. I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in mine hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses and Aaron and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy. And they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun.
Read.
And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven.
So now it's been written, and we got to be able to look at this and say the war was won in unity. The war wasn't won by one man. It wasn't just won by the people fighting. It was the unity of the men and the men that were out there fighting. It was the unity of Aaron and Hur and Moses. All of that together is what gave us the W in that situation. It's what's going to give us the W in the last days. We got to change our mindset. We can't be looking at this thing as I'm going to come in here, I'm going to move like an individual, and therefore I'm going to prosper. No, you got to fix yourself. That's your responsibility. But it's bigger than that. Once you got that shared identity, it's how do I make my nation greater? Not how do I make myself greater? Because the Negro only thinks about himself. But the Israelite man and woman, they need to think about the next person, the person next to them, on their left, on their right, the person in the congregation that needs to grow, that's brokenhearted, and they need help, just like Moses needed help in this situation. Give me Acts chapter 2 and verse 38. Acts 2 and 38.
This is the book of Acts chapter 2 and verse 38.
Let's see if that changed in the New Testament.
Then Peter said unto them, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ, for the remission of sins, and ye shall receive the gift of the Holy Ghost.
Go ahead.
For the promise is unto you, and to your children, and to all that are far off, even as many as the Lord our God shall call.
So Peter is telling them to repent and come back to the Lord. Now watch what happens after he tells them to repent and come back to the Lord. Watch how the apostles carry on. How they move as a congregation. Go ahead.
Verse 40. And with many other words he did testify and exhort, saying, save yourselves from this untoward generation. Then they that gladly received his word were baptized. And the same day there were added unto them about 3,000 souls.
Okay.
And they continued.
Now with 3,000 souls, that's 3,000 brokenhearted individuals that's coming back to the Lord. And the job of the leaders is to unite them together. Get them on one page and on one accord. Let's see how they did so. Go ahead.
And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine.
One thing that they did was they continued to keep their mind on the laws of God. They kept the apostles' doctrine. They kept the teachings that they were given about unity and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And think about the kingdom to come. And make sure you look out for each other. All of that was in here. Leave the customs of Rome in that time or whatever surrounding city they were in. They were taught repentance. That was the first point. Go ahead.
And fellowship.
They fellowship with one another. They had unity amongst themselves. They cared about each other. There was a level of love amongst the brethren and the sisterin at that time who were repenting. There wasn't just individuals saying, I'm only going to think about me. They thought about everybody around them. Go ahead.
And in breaking of bread and in prayers.
They prayed for one another. They ate together. There was a level of unity there. In order to build in that time, they understood unity was necessary. Just like Moses needed unity back then to get done what he needed to get done, they needed unity in the New Testament to get done what they need to get done. So you don't think you need unity now? You think you won't be able to get it done without unity now? You need unity. Go ahead.
And fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done by the apostles. And all that believed were together and had all things common.
They had all things common. They were together and they had all things common. That word common is a root word of community. If you ain't on the same page, you ain't got no community. If you ain't on the same page, you don't have a nation. Can two walk together except they be agreed? What the apostles understood was unity and camaraderie was a necessity in building this nation. It wasn't optional. It wasn't, oh, maybe we get together. Maybe we be on the same page. Maybe I think about you. They understood in repentance, the only thing that's going to keep us in these times is being on the same page and being on one accord. It's a necessity, just like we understood it in the 60s. But today, in this day and age, America has taught you don't need nobody but yourself. And that's exactly what you got to leave. You got to leave that mindset exactly where America's at, in the fire. That's where you got to leave it. Go ahead.
And sold their possessions and goods, and parted them to all men, as every man had need.
They sold their excess because they understood there was a need amongst the people for the basic necessities. So they say, I don't need 2, 3 cars and 4 houses. What I need is the basics so that my people can be taken care of. Go on.
And they, continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart, praising God and having favor with all people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved.
So the Lord added to them. Why? Because in their union, they were building each other up. There was camaraderie there. So the Lord continued to add to them because of the unification of his nation. That's what was happening here. The people were coming in. They were being taken care of. They were fellowshipping. They were learning to repent. And that's what the Lord wanted in the last days. That's what he's saying when he's telling us to gather together. When he's saying go and preach to the brokenhearted and those that are in mourning, bring them out of that mourning through that unity, through that camaraderie that they only going to find here amongst the Israelites. That's what they got to find when they come in. They can't come through the doors and find evil, wicked Negroes that don't think about each other. What's the difference? The identity, the shared identity, should bring about that unity that the Lord is looking for. Give me Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 6. Start there. Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 6.
This is the book of Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 6. But Christ as a son over his own house, whose house are we?
We are the Lord's house. Christ is over his own house. We are the Lord's house. Go ahead.
And we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the...
Actually, jump up. Start at verse 3.
Yes, sir. Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 3.
Start at 2.
Verse 2.
Just start at 1. Whatever. Start at 1. Go ahead.
This is the book of Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 1.
Bring it out.
Wherefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling,
We've been called to a heavenly calling. Go ahead.
consider the apostle and high priest of our profession, Christ Jesus,
Read.
who was faithful to him that appointed him, as also Moses was faithful in all his house.
Moses was faithful in his work and building his house. We read about that, how Moses needed unity to get that done. He was faithful in his work. He got it done with the help of the brethren. Go ahead.
For this man was counted worthy of more glory than Moses, inasmuch as he who had builded the house had more honor than the house.
So Christ, right, is more glorious than Moses. He's building a house too, and he deserves more glory than the house. It's going to go on. Go ahead.
For every house is builded by some man, but he that built all things is God.
God is building up this congregation. He's establishing unity right now. That unity and camaraderie is being established in the earth. Go ahead.
And Moses verily was faithful in all his house, as a servant, for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken after. But Christ as a son over his own house, whose house are we, if we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end.
We're Christ's house, but we must hold together until the end. We must dwell together until the end. We got to have that unity. That's what it's going into. You don't want your house falling apart and breaking into shambles because the bricks ain't on the same page. We got to hold together to the end. Go ahead.
Wherefore, as the Holy Ghost saith, today if ye will hear his voice, harden not your hearts as in the provocation, in the day of the temptation in the wilderness.
Because when we came into the wilderness, we had Egypt on our brain. We had different things outside of unity. We wanted leeks and onions. We didn't want to unite with God. We wanted to eat meat. We wanted to do certain things that the Lord said, no, I don't need you doing that. I need you to leave Egypt behind and unite with one another. Unite with me. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Stop picking up stuff on the Sabbath day. Follow my rules so that we can be one. That's what the Lord always wanted from us. But we always had something else in our mind. Another thought that disconnected us from God. The mindset of a black man. That's what we always had, somewhere lurking. And we battling that as a nation of people. So coming in here, we got to be able to understand we're going through the same process over and over again, trying to get right. Everybody in here is dealing with that. Everybody in here has thoughts that are trying to pull them away from God. Go ahead.
When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years.
The Lord is a black man. He said, you see my work. I put you to death. You saw my work for 40 years. Go ahead.
Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always err in their heart, and they have not known my ways.
The way that we've always erred is we disconnected from the unity of God and each other, and we've always used this to solve our problems, our own mind. Instead of having the camaraderie and the unity with God and with each other, we start thinking about ourselves. We got to come out of that. We can't be like the Negro and only think about ourselves. We got to say, what would the Lord want me to do in this situation? How do I gather together with my people? We failed at it in the wilderness. We failed at it from captivity to captivity to captivity. And look where we at now. We got to stop doing the same thing. Because it ain't about one man. It's about us as a nation uniting. Maybe you got that mindset. Maybe you as an individual, you say, I care about the people around me. But do the people next to you care about each other? Do they care about the next man? Does that sister across the room care about the next person? If not, we got to get them right. That's the unity the Lord is looking for. Go on.
So I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. Take heed.
They won't enter into the kingdom of heaven because they've always been against the unity of God. That's why they were put to death, because they never were about unity. So now, in these times, watch what was said. Go ahead. Watch what Paul says. Go ahead.
Verse 12, take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief.
Wait a minute. He said, pay attention, take heed, because in you, the same thing could exist. You could have a mindset that is taking you away from the unity of God. You could have this existing in you, being in the body, being in the scriptures. You can have a mindset that says, yo, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not going to follow this. I'm not going to have camaraderie with the brothers and sisters. I'm not going to think about everybody else. I want to be a nigga. I'm not going to say, unlike niggas, I think about you. I don't got that mind. That could be in you from day to day, from week to week. So you got to be paying attention to yourself. Watch what it says next.
In departing from the living God.
Read.
But exhort one another daily, while it is called today.
He said daily we got to exhort one another, because what we don't realize is it could take a day and a brother or a sister be gone. Why? Because their mind departs from God. Through the trouble they're going through the flesh that they're living in, they'll depart from God. And when you care about each other in unity, that's going to be at the forefront of your mind. You're going to say, let me look at this other brother or this other sister's life and make sure they all right. Let me call them and check in on them. Yeah, there's no reason. Nobody's prompting me to do so, but I know they got the same fleshly mind that I'm dealing with, and it took me a lot to struggle through it today, so let me just reach out to them and see if they're good. Let me see if everything's all right with them. Let me see if they're moving in the right direction. And if everybody got that mindset, everybody will get taken care of. We all be able to endure to the end, right? At least the righteous ones will be able to endure to the end. Some people slated for death. But the righteous will endure. Why? Because now when they get off track and they lose sight of that unity and that camaraderie, there's going to be somebody to pull them back. Go ahead.
Lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin.
Read.
For we are made partakers of Christ, and we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end.
It's about we. We must hold that confidence from the beginning until the end. The only way you're going to hold it is with another brother or sister helping to exhort you daily. Read.
While it is said, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts as in the provocation.
So the reason those people's hearts were hardened because we didn't keep each other together in unity. There were some people that's going to be wicked amongst us just like there is now. But the righteous, we need each other. The righteous need that unity and that shared identity that the Lord is trying to put on the earth. He only dealt with us. He's only punishing us. So his question to us is, can we walk together if we're not agreed? Can we not get to the point of unity? That's what he's asking. If we get to the point of unity, then we can walk together. Then we can be back connected with our God. Sirach chapter 24, start at verse 1 real quick. So we got to understand that wisdom that we lacked is what created that division. So putting that wisdom back in us is what will create that unity. Sirach 24:1.
It's the book of Sirach chapter 24 and verse 1.
Bring it out.
Wisdom shall praise herself, and shall glory in the midst of her people. In the congregation of the Most High.
Where's wisdom going to be at?
Shall glory in the midst of her people.
Wisdom was not in one person. It's in the midst of her people. It ain't just one of you that's super smart. You ain't no magical Negro. Wisdom is among the people, just like it was in the time of Moses, just like it was in the time of Acts, just like Paul was saying in Hebrews that we must exhort one another daily. Wisdom is in the midst of the children of Israel. Go ahead. And sometimes you may lack wisdom, so you need someone to exhort you. Verse 2.
Verse 2, in the congregation of the Most High shall she open her mouth and triumph before his power.
Okay, jump down to verse 12.
Verse 12, and I took root in an honorable people.
I took root where?
In an honorable people.
And where?
Honorable people.
He took root in an honorable people. That's what you read in Deuteronomy chapter 4. The Lord wants wisdom to take root in us again. That's what he's given us the opportunity to do, to come together as that great nation that the people say, wow, they got a God so close to them. Their statutes and their judgments are above and unlike anything I've ever seen in the earth. Go on.
Even in the portion of the Lord's inheritance.
Jump down to verse 30.
Verse 30. I also came out as a brook from a river.
So the wisdom is increasing in us. It came out like a brook from a river. Go ahead.
And as a conduit into a garden.
The garden is going into us as a nation. The water is feeding us. The understanding of the Bible is feeding us. Right? Go ahead.
I said, I will water my best garden, and will water abundantly my garden bed. And lo, my brook became a river, and my river became a sea. I will yet make doctrine to shine as the morning.
See, it goes from the water to the doctrine, because that's what it's going into. As you're being taught, you're learning. That wisdom is increasing amongst you. Now we're being fed with wisdom, and what it should create in us is a different level of unity. Go ahead.
And will send forth her light afar off. I will yet pour out doctrine as prophecy, and leave it to all ages forever.
It's going to be left to all ages forever, because as wisdom grows in us, we're going to teach each other. We're not just going to leave somebody behind where they don't understand. No. We're going to exhort one another daily. As I learn, you learn. That's the difference. Because unlike niggas, I think about you. Watch verse 34 now. Watch what it says.
Verse 34, behold, that I have not labored for myself only.
See what it says? It was never about you being deep. The wisdom was never coming into you for you to be deep or for you to separate yourself or think it was about you. The wisdom came into you for what? Read the next part.
But for all them that seek wisdom.
That's what the wisdom was for. For all of them that were impoverished, all of them that were brokenhearted, all of them that were downtrodden and feel like they're nothing. As they come in here and they learn their identity, that wisdom is to be shown through the congregation, through how we move as a people. That's what it's about. It ain't about you. It's about how do I make my nation greater. And that's what the day of Simon is about. Simon was about making his nation greater. Read. 25:1. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Like, what do I read? 25:1.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on.
In three things I was beautified, and stood up beautiful both before God.
It's continuing talking about wisdom. In three things, wisdom was beautified. Go ahead, read it from the top.
In three things I was beautified, and stood up beautiful both before God and men. The unity of brethren.
You see what it said? And the unity of brethren, you see that wisdom. Why? Because a brethren knows how to love his neighbor as he loves himself. He knows how to look at when you look at Romans 13:8-11, and it talks about if you love your neighbor, you want to commit adultery, you want to steal, right? You want to sleep with your neighbor's wife, you want to hurt him or kill him, right? Do things against your neighbor because you understand that the love or the wisdom, right, that's in you is being shown by how you act and how you deal with each other. That wisdom is being shown by you having peace amongst each other. So wisdom is glorified through individuals, through people, not in just one man. It's shown in how you deal with each other. Go ahead.
The love of neighbors.
The love of your neighbor. Through that, you see wisdom. When we got an issue with each other, we know how to solve it. Now you see the wisdom in the people. Go ahead.
And a man and a wife that agree together.
When you see an Israelite couple that know how to agree together, and when you see a wedding, any of y'all that been to a wedding, you see the wedding, you're like, man, that's beautiful. Huh? The Lord is coming back to get us as his bride. And what he needs is unity. That's what he needs from us first and foremost. That unity is what's going to establish us as a great nation on earth. Now read verse 2 though.
Three sorts of men my soul hateth.
Wisdom hates these three sorts of men. The Lord hates these three sorts of men. Go ahead.
And I am greatly offended at their life.
Read.
A poor man that is proud.
Because you have some brothers that are in poor estate and poverty, but they don't want no help. They don't want no advice. They don't want nobody to correct their situation because they're wiser than Daniel. They know everything already. So they will remove themselves from the unity of God. Go ahead.
A rich man that is a liar.
A rich man that got money and he's selling his people out. He's lying to all his brothers. He's scamming everybody everywhere. They will create hatred amongst their people. They will create a disconnect amongst the nation. So the Lord is saying in learning wisdom, I'm going to be beautified if y'all know how to deal with each other. But there's people amongst us that ain't going to be right. Go ahead.
And an old adulterer that doteth.
An old adulterer that's cheating on his wife. Because why? Now he's established a pattern of hatred, a pattern of no unity amongst his family, and that's going to spread amongst the nation. The Lord don't like these things. So when we learn wisdom, our responsibility is to continue to grow the unity amongst our nation. That's why we learn who we are in these last days. Because we can't walk with God unless we agree with God. The book of Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1.
The book of Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together.
The Lord wasn't asking it. It's a commandment. He said, gather yourselves together. Read it again.
Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
The Lord said in the last days, he commands us to gather together. He said we're a nation not desired. Read that top part one more time.
Gather yourselves together.
Wait a second. You sitting on the couch. You're sitting at home. The end time's passing you by. And you ain't been to the school yet.
Come on now, dog.
You ain't hear Boozy? What Boozy just said?
Come on, man.
Come on, man. It's time for you to get down here, man. It's a shame, bro.
What the hell?
Come on, man.
Oh
Look, come down to the school, 7254 University Avenue, La Mesa, California. Come keep God's commandments. What you waiting on? And if you're looking for a school in your area, visit IsraelUnite.org/contact us and find the school closest to you. Shalom. Give me Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 1.
This is the book of Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 1. I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called.
Read.
With all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace.
We must endeavor to keep the unity and the bond of peace. Let's read that definition real quick one more time. This is what endeavoring is.
This is the definition of endeavor. To exert oneself, to do or affect something. Make an effort, strive.
We got to make an effort to always have unity. That's what the Lord looking for. In order to walk worthy of what we've been called this vocation or lifelong work, we got to have unity. That's the only way we're going to walk together and be on the same page. We must have a level of unity amongst us. Give me Ezra chapter 3 and verse 1. You could drop that. Ezra 3 and 1. We got to have unity amongst ourselves as a nation. The Lord has always looked for it from us. We've lacked it. Time after time after time, we chose ourselves. We thought about ourselves. We thought about what we had going on. But we got to learn how to think about each other. Unlike niggas, I think about you. Come on.
It's the book of Ezra, chapter 3, and verse 1.
Bring it out.
And when the 7th month was come, and the children of Israel were in the cities, the people gathered themselves together as one man to Jerusalem.
We got to grow to be like one man in our movements and our actions. They got to see us as a nation and say they are clearly all on the same page. They move together as a unit. That's what this Bible, when we put this wisdom in us, that's what it's going to create. Nehemiah chapter 4 and verse 6. That's what's being created. Is a level of unity that cannot be broken. Esau understood that. He said, at some point, they're going to be them and we're going to be us. And when that happens, we're going to be united stronger than they could ever imagine. Read that.
This book of Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 6. So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof. For the people had a mind to work.
The people had a mind to work. Why? Because they cared about their people. It didn't matter what role they had to play. They knew this benefits my nation. This is what we got to come to. We got to come to the mindset to say, it don't matter what my job is or what my role is. What I care about is us moving together forward as a nation of people. That unity and camaraderie is necessary. It ain't just about me and my house. After I get my house right, it's about this nation. That's what it's about. Give me 1 Corinthians 1 and 10. 1 Corinthians 1 and 10.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 10.
Bring it out.
Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment.
This is where we got to get to. We got to be joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. That's why we learn the laws of God. Not so we could be selfish and think about ourselves, but so that we could take care of each other. Now jump to verse 13, chapter 13, and read from verse 1 real quick.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1.
Bring it out.
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal.
This charity is going to loving your neighbor like you love yourself. If we don't love our neighbor like we love ourselves, all that we're doing is like making noise. That's all we're doing. Go ahead.
And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries, and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I can remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing.
Read verse 4. Come on.
Verse 4. Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up.
Charity is not about itself. Charity ain't thinking about how it can be the man. Charity is suffering because what? We know our people suffering, and we're going to deal with each other and build each other up. That's brotherly love. That's what the Lord looking for. Go on.
Doeth not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own.
Charity is unlike niggas. You see? Charity ain't like a Negro. A Negro don't have no charity. If we got charity in us, we're going to think about you. Go ahead.
Is not easily provoked. Thinketh no evil. rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth.
Read.
Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues.
Read verse 7 real quick.
Yes, sir. Verse 7. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things.
So in order to endure all things, in order to make it through, we're going to need charity. That's the only way we're going to make it through the destruction coming. I'm getting ready to wrap it up. Read 1 Corinthians 1 and verse 31.
1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 31.
Bring it out.
That according as it is written, he that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord.
That's what it's about. We must glory in the Lord, not as individuals. We can't only be glorying in ourselves and what we getting done. We got to glory in the Lord and in our nation rising up. That's what the Lord was about. He told Abraham he was going to establish a great nation. That's what we got to want. We got to align our mind with God, not a great individual, a great household. That's not what the Lord ever wanted. He wanted a great nation of people. Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 10.
This is book of Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign for the of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And
The Gentiles there is referring to the nation of Israel. Keep going.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people.
His people is the nation of Israel. Those are the Gentiles he's going to recover. Go on.
Which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
Assyria is Turkey. Egypt is going to Africa. Pathros is Africa. Cush is Africa. Elam is going to India. Shinar is Iraq. Hamath is Syria. And the islands of the sea is all the islands that our people have been scattered to. The Lord is going to redeem us and unify us from all over the world. That's what's coming in these last days. That's what we got to want. Go ahead.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
He's going to gather and unite our people from the four corners of the earth. That is the promise of God. That's what he wants. He don't want you to be the greatest on the planet and not care about nobody else. What he's trying to do is unite a nation of people. He's for the people and it's about the people. We got to stop being like individuals who only think about us. The Lord is trying to unify a nation. Go ahead.
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall...
Drop that. Give me the last one. Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44. I end it here. That's what's happening in the earth. So unity and camaraderie is a necessity. It's what the Lord always wanted. First, with him, uniting with the Lord, and lastly, amongst each other. Why gather a nation of people together that's going to hate each other, that don't want to be on the same page? He's establishing something that can never be broken. And the first thing that starts with is the unity and camaraderie amongst his people. Daniel 2 and verse 44.
This book of Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44.
Bring it out.
And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed.
The kingdom will never be destroyed because it'll be unified beyond belief. We're going to be unified with the power that made everything. That's what we're getting back to unity with. So this kingdom will never be destroyed. Go ahead.
And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
For how long?
Forever.
The unity of God is going to reign forever. So if you ain't unified, you ain't going. All right? So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Lord willing, you got something from the class. Remember, follow IUIC San Diego on YouTube. Shalom, y'all. Most High in Christ bless.
What is a nation? Nation is men leading by example.